one might think that, okay, civic virtue, they write it into their declarations of rights, they build their state capitals with these Roman models, but how far is this idea really trickling down into society? Like, for instance, women, are they swept up into this idea of virtue? Well, we have some very interesting sources on that. One of the things the American Revolution does is it encourages an expansion in education. And at least for white women, there are new opportunities to be educated. Obviously, those opportunities are not as expansive as today. They don't include university. But a number of new female academies spring up after the American Revolution. And one of them in Rhode Island has produced a remarkable set of primary sources of a very unique kind for us. There are a series of needlework samplers that the girls did, because of course needlework is something an 18th century woman would have needed to master, particularly one who is middling or upper middling in terms of their economic position. And while before the war, these needlework samplers had all these domestic themes, you know, animals, homes, boys and girls walking, sitting under trees, a whole series of them produced after the Revolution. Suddenly, there are still animals, there are still boys and girls, but if you look closely, some new things are in the middle of the sampler. So in one case, the girl has stitched in, instead of a kind of traditional homey homily, she has stitched in the words, "Let virtue be a guide to thee." And instead of her house or some kind of domestic dwelling, she's put the Rhode Island State House, the center of politics, and Providence College, the forerunner of Brown University, and the top above what is now Brown University basically encourages students to gain education, to become educated so that they can exercise their political judgment in a way consistent with virtue. So here you have a teenage girl, you know, who in 21st century America would probably not, in terms of, you know, what would you be doing in your education or even for fun, would not be creating a civic republican text done in needlework. I mean, you know, I don't want to say nobody's done it in contemporary America. Probably someone is doing it somewhere even as I speak. But the fact that we have several of these, that this was obviously not a unique thing, that even these teenage girls were being inculcated with these ideas of civic virtue, are clearly evidenced in this remarkable set of sources, which are needlework samplers. I mean, these are not, you know, published political texts. These are something that it's a female art form, and it's a female art form that has imbibed certain of these political and legal and constitutional ideals. We have other examples. There's a math book for a young girl named Martha Ryan, and on the front of her little cipher book, which is what we would call the math book, she has a flag, and she's written the words "liberty or death" as the preface to her arithmetic homework. Again, you know, you're seeing political themes finding their way into places that you wouldn't necessarily thought them. One of the first spellers, you know, children's books of verse, if you were to look up the page with the letter E, it would have the symbol, the Great Seal of the United States, the eagle. And if you think about the Great Seal of the United States with its symbol, it's got an eagle carrying arrows and an olive branch, you know, symbol of war and peace. It's got a kind of shield across its front, which again symbolizes the protective function of the new United States. So you're seeing these patriotic and nationalistic themes also work their way into a children's spelling book. You also, if you went to one of the finer cabinet makers in Massachusetts, when he started making furniture, instead of making little elegant designs on the top, which had been typical of 18th century furniture, of sort of the Chippendale style, you start seeing things like the Goddess of Liberty, carrying a liberty pole with a liberty hat on it, carved into the middle of people's dressers. And you see a lot of American eagles starting to appear at the bottom of mirrors and things like that. So the entire culture, you know, from its material culture, from its education, to its public buildings, to its constitutional texts, all reflect this same Republican set of values. And virtue is one of those key concepts.